All right, guys, welcome to the Tuesday night live feed. We're going to talk a little bit about
Oh, good. Glenn says he sees us.
Lake Tawakoni
All right.
and what is going on the lake. Hope everybody's had a great week.
28 people?
We've
really care what we're doing?
we had a really good week this week. Teri ran a bachelor party trip with some young guys with Taylor. Taylor is one of our guys that works for us full time, and they had an awesome trip.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Those kinds of trips are fun. We do a lot of corporate trips, and we do some bachelor parties. I guess it's better for guys to go fishing than other places. I don't know.
Well, how'd your trip turn out?
It turned out great. Taylor smoked me on the big fish, but that's all right. But the group had a good time. We caught tons of fish, and it was just a lot of fun. Yeah, great group of guys. It was fun. So yeah, it was a good time. I know you had a couple trips this week. We had sonar trips, I think.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of sonar trips. People are setting up their units. I know Tommy. I've got a trip with him in the morning. Fished with him yesterday, I guess. We had a good trip. We limited out on big fish. We caught a bunch of striper, and we caught a limited sand bass. Yeah. And then we went and chased a crappie a little bit. So it was a lot of fun. I know Ben Ashmore last week. We had a good trip with him. The questions come up. I think Mike Thompson asked a question. He asked about the north wind. You know, we've had this northeast flow off this hurricane now for the last couple. I guess it's been the last 5 days. And I'll tell you what. Here's the deal on the north wind on Tawakoni. When the wind blows out of the northwest, Tawakoni is a very difficult place to fish, especially if there's any velocity to the wind. If it's over 12, 13 miles an hour, if it's over 12 or 13 miles an hour on Tawakoni out of the northwest, you're going to have a really hard time finding a place to fish, especially if you're fishing for crappie, white bass, hybrid striper, things like that. Yeah. Now, blue catfish in the wintertime, man, 20, 25 mile an hour northwest wind. If you got the boat to get out there, the fish tend to want to go. But the question was, right now, what are the fish doing with this north wind that we've had the last few days? Because the north wind's been blowing now for 7 or 8 days, I think the fish have gotten used to it, and really, it's actually not that bad. The fishing is, in general, pretty steady. There's sand bass literally everywhere right now. I know Chase asked how the snapper bite is on Tawak. I don't know, man. Why don't you tell me?
Yeah, pretty good.
The sand bass bite is really good. The big fish bite, the hybrids and the stripers are pretty hit and miss. You can catch them. They're moving like crazy right now. You just have to stay dialed in on the electronics and literally just blast and cast. We're running up and down ridges, up on tops of humps and back down on the sides of humps, and we're using our side imaging. And literally, I've got my guys' rods in their hands, and when we mark the striper out to the right or left side, I say cast, boom, they cast into the school, and sometimes we'll pick 1 or 2 off, and then it's back. Then it's back to looking again. So, it's that time of year when the fish are just moving. You know, you probably, if you've been out on the lake, any lake in North Texas right now, you get out there, you find the mother load of fish, and you think, oh my gosh, I'm getting ready to sit on these fish and just catch them until I get tired of catching them. You'll pull right up on them. You'll catch 4 or 5, maybe real quick, and then all of a sudden you look at them, and you're like, where'd they go?
Yep,
and you drive around for 4 or 5 minutes, and then you relocate the school, and then you catch 3 or 4 more, and then you got to keep moving. Yeah. So, Bart Rogers says catfish. He wants to know about catfish.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead. Tell them how we're catching those channels and blues right now.
Well,
we actually had a question from Tammy. She wanted to know what the best line setup is for catfishing, and then also, are they deep or shallow this time of year?
Well, you're the catfish.
Well, I mean, I don't know about all that. Right now, with the lake being up, a lot of those catfish channels and blues are up shallow, so you can catch those fish along the banks and the willows and with a cork out there. So if you're, boatless and you want to catch some fish, man, a windblown area and cast out there in those weeds with a cork, you should be lights out for those fish.
Yeah.
And we're also catching them on our trips. What we're doing because there's so many willows around the lake. That's what thousands of areas. I mean, it's just they're scattered. So what we're doing right now is we're fishing deep. We're catching those fish with punch bait out in deep water, and 30 to 40 foot.
Yeah.
About the depth of those fish. And one of the questions that Tammy asked was what line, the best line set up for fishing catfish. And so what we use as Team Catfish is yellow braid, and this is 50-pound test for you guys. We use this for punch bait fishing. It's great braid. You can kind of tell them why we use the braid for the channels.
Well, you know, when we're fishing punch bait, which if you fish punch bait before, you know, it stinks. It's a stink bait. It's made out of some type of bad cheese, I guess.
Mr. Whiskers is what we use.
Yeah, we do use
bait.
Mr. Whiskers.
Team Catfish bait is great too, but we got Mr. Whiskers right down here, and he's local, and we can just get it all.
Yep. Anyways,
good.
The reason why we use braid when we're catching explain splat fishing. Rick Dixon wants to know what splat fishing is. What's up, Dirk Miller?
No,
Belton,
splash
Texas.
fishing.
What's
hey,
up,
John down
Jones?
there in Port O'Connor.
Yes, sir. The channel catfish eat the punch bait incredibly soft. Matter of fact, they'll come up with their whiskers. My two little fingers here are their whiskers. They'll come up and they will actually whisker that bait first. They'll touch it with their whiskers, and that mouth will come right behind those whiskers, and they'll put it right in their mouth like this. And a lot of times, those channel cats will get it completely in their mouth, and you'll never know it. You'll never know it on your rod tip. And as that fish starts to swim away, that rod tip just will barely move. And you got to have a lot of sensitivity when you're fishing for channel cats, and that braid has no stretch in it, and it works fantastic. Plus, we literally catch thousands and thousands of channel cats, and the braid can stay on a spinning reel. Matter of fact, we've got one right here. Kind of hold it up and look and see. That's a Shimano Sienna 20. That's a 4,000 reel. But this braid right here, guys, where's Jeff's box at again? Right here. Seriously, this braid right here is crazy. This braid is 3 years old.
Yeah.
On this reel. This is the third season. Yeah. And it's absolutely crazy. And if I were using monofilament, I'd probably go through, 2 or 3 spools of line a year. This braid's been on here for 3 years. The lighter it gets, the easier it is to see. So, and it's sensitive, so it works. It works great. With
and also on the hook end, our treble hooks we use a number 6. So this is what we're using, just so you guys can.
Yeah, and here's the deal on those treble hooks. These are number 6 4X strong treble hooks. Right. There's a big difference between the treble hooks you buy at Walmart and Academy.
Absolutely.
You can't get these 4X strong really at Bass Pro. Well, you can get them at Bass Pro, but you can't get them really at Academy or Walmart. The difference between a regular Aaron Greer splat fishing. The difference between a regular treble hook and a 4X strong is that after you roll that treble hook out, 3 or 4 times out of that catfish's mouth, it's going to be all jumbled up like a mushroom.
Especially trying to pull it out.
These 4X strong hooks, they last. Sometimes they'll last 2 or 3 trips before we have to replace them.
Absolutely.
So
just back to her question. In general, the catfishing is great now in Tawakoni. We catch those fish all year long. There's just a couple months out of the year where they're a little tough, and you can go out with 4 guys or girls or whatever and get a limit of catfish in about 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours at the most. So it's a lot of fun. Those 1 to 3 good eating size catfish are what we're talking about.
Okay, so along the lines of catfish, Kevin McCollum had asked the question. He says, how does weather and water temperature affect the depth of catfish? Is it different for channels, blues, flatheads, and do they follow the same pattern? They do not follow the same pattern. Blue catfish are much more prone to becoming active in colder water, whereas the channel catfish are more of a summer fish. They thrive in warmer water. How does the water temperature affect the depth of the catfish? Man, that's a good one. I would say the water temperature affects the shad more, and then the shad are going to affect how the blue catfish are going to fall. Blue catfish are so tolerant to weather conditions. They're tolerant to oh my gosh, Stan Browning, my cousin. Blue cats are incredibly tolerant, and where you're going to find your bait stage up is where you're going to find your blue catfish. Channel catfish, on the flip side, are structure-oriented fish. They are going to be around the rocks. They're going to be around the willows. They're going to be around the timber. They're like kind of like a crappie in the sense they like to be around structure that has a somewhat of a close food source. So,
can I say something real quick?
Yep.
You have to look right there, because if not, you're looking right there and you're looking cross-eyed.
Okay. Well, I look.
Just letting you know. Because everybody will think you're a little.
I look cross-eyed anyway.
Anyway, no, I'm just joking.
Anyways, and so now I can't even remember what I was talking about. But in the wintertime, here's what I want to say about that. In the wintertime, these blue catfish are deep and they're shallow. Your bigger gizzard shad, they stay shallow. Typically in the winter, your smaller threadfin and your smaller gizzard shad will go deep. There's a big group of fish that split during the wintertime.
Yeah.
A lot of your fish will go up shallow. A lot of your fish will go deep. And you really got to pick your poison. Find out which one's the strongest and stick with it. And then there's the mid-depth as well. And so blue catfish can be caught in all depths. They're very tolerant to weather conditions. Post front, big blue skies, typical bad areas. Still is
and I can also
a
say
good time to catch
that,
blue cats.
when a customer calls and a potential customer and they're asking us about blue cat fishing, and one of the questions they ask, well, it sure is cold in the winter. If it's real windy or if it's really cold, do we still fish? And I'm like, the colder the better, the windier the better. If it's a 30, 40 mile an hour wind, we're like, yes, it's gonna be good fishing. So the bigger the better, the windier it's all good.
Definitely good for blue catfish.
For big blue cat, eaters too. The small eat size fish too.
Another question, probably the question that, and I got to find it here.
Well, let me answer this really quick.
Yep.
We had a question about some of the better boat ramps on Tawakoni, and then finding, I can't see his name right here, but what are some of the better boat ramps on Tawakoni? The ones I found were single lane. I can tell you over at Holiday Marina, that lane over there, and there's a couple boat ramps there, but that, Teri, that lane at Holiday Marina is pretty wide. So, it's a great, and it's not real deep. It's deep, but it's not real what do you want to say? How do you say that? On the lane.
I'm sorry, I'm sitting here reading. I'm reading this. Robert, remind me what you said. That's a good question. So remind me here in a minute. Ask that question again. I'll
anyway, back to the boat ramps. Holiday Marina's ramp is fairly wide, but Tawakoni State Park has a great
boat ramp.
Boat ramp. Sorry, you throw me off, and I'm throwing you off. So.
The boat ramp at the state park is the best boat ramp on the lake. The second best boat ramp on the lake is probably Holiday Marina's.
Yeah, because it's wide, and
it's not steep, and they have good parking and stuff like that. So there are a few boat ramps on the lake that are like Teri, you'd said earlier, that are very narrow, and if you're not really good at backing down, you could easily go off the ramp. So
absolutely.
I want to go back to Robert Funderburg's question. He just asked a question. He said, "Look,"
he said,
Tatum.
Hi, Tatum. It's Jerry's little girl. She's sweet.
Robert asked a question and said, if you want to go blue cat fishing during the wintertime, and you just don't have access to shad, what can you do? And that's a great question, because everybody knows that the biggest nemesis of blue cat fishermen is fresh bait. Is shad. And I say fresh, that means not frozen. Let me tell you what you can do that will help you stick to your plan and actually go fishing when you don't have any bait. The best thing to do is to go to a Fiesta or like a Mexican grocery store or an Asian grocery store, like a fish market, meat market type thing, and go and purchase a full-size buffalo. They have a lot of different fish there. Some of them are game fish, so you can't use those. But a buffalo works great. Take that buffalo, take like a club or something, and kind of pat it or beat it down both sides, fillet it, and then take and strip it out. Just take strips, maybe inch and a half wide by probably 5 inches long, and hook the tip of your circle hook through that strip, like a chicken nugget strip. And that's gonna catch fish on your trip, and it's gonna save your trip, and it's fresh bait, because most of those fish coming into those meat markets or those fish markets are not frozen. They're caught
fresh,
wherever they're caught, and they're brought straight in.
And I've had customers on my boat, and I've heard all kinds of stories about what they use, weenies and chicken and
Yeah, you know, chicken,
Vienna weenies,
fresh chicken breast. I've personally never caught a blue catfish on chicken breast, but
I've used shrimp.
But I've never caught one. But here's the key: fresh bait.
Yeah, fresh bait.
Not frozen, fresh bait.
I can tell you on all of our blue cat trips, our trophy trips, we always use fresh bait.
Yep.
I mean, it's a day or two old.
Yep.
In the wintertime, we run a trip and then we're going to go out and throw
We
bait.
We will spend countless hours in the winter finding
I'll
bait.
tell you a story. Last year, was it last year where we had back-to-back trips and we were just like 4 boats a day and it was crazy and we were like, oh, we've got like 5 boats out tomorrow. We're like, bait was a little bit of an issue, and so we were at like what, 4 in the morning?
Yeah, well, I don't think so. Some of us ever went to sleep.
Yeah.
Because
bait.
we were catching.
We caught the bait and went straight to the boat ramp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, you know, bait's key. All right, we spent too much time on that question, I think. Why don't you talk about the hat?
Yeah, we're gonna do a hat giveaway. It'll be like this.
Hey,
maybe
that's
this
a cool
one.
thing.
Who?
Look, can I see it? I'm sending the hat.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we're going to do a hat giveaway, and it's going to start today. So I'm not giving the hat away today. We're going to give it away on Tuesdays. But basically, if you guys will make a comment, anything, we got up at 1 a.m., Taylor says. That's true. We did. Y'all did. Anyway, the hat.
Stay on focus, babe.
It's okay. I'm
Stay
blind.
on focus.
Okay.
Stay on focus.
Anyway, so the hat. What does he say? How do you store your shad for a couple days without it going soft? That's a great question. Hold on,
We got an answer for that question.
We do. Okay, so just real quick on the hat giveaway. If you guys want a hat, we're gonna. I'm gonna. If you will share this video, and if you, oh look, Yamaha shared our thingy. Okay, anyway, if you will share this video, this live feed on your Facebook, and also make a comment, even if it's just hello or whatever. Make a comment to us. Share the video, and I'm actually gonna follow it all week long, and I'm gonna put everybody's name in a hat. And then I will come back here next Tuesday with a cup or a bag or whatever.
A hat.
And I will draw a hat.
Come with
the hat.
The hat. You'll
That's
put the names in the hat and you'll draw the hat.
Yeah, and then somebody will win a hat. So we'll mail it to you. So anyway, so we're doing a hat giveaway. So you guys, please share this video and then share it on your Facebook and make a comment. Do those 2 things, and then we'll draw live next week.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to answer this question in 20 seconds or less. On your bait, how do you keep it fresh? 3 days is the key. You don't want to keep your bait longer than 3 days fresh. So if you catch it on a Monday, you're going to keep it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You'll throw it away on Thursday. Here's how you do it. Take your ice chest, fill it completely full with ice on the bottom. Okay? Take all your shad, pile them on top. Okay?
What boat is best for your business? Okay.
Hey, you're itching into my 20 seconds here.
Okay, well,
that's it. That's it.
Here, Michael. Ooh, I'm sucking.
All of the goo and all the junk, the slime, everything's going to fall through the ice. And as the ice melts, the water's going to stay on the bottom, and your shad will stay dry and cold. That's the key.
That's a great tip.
You have to keep your bait dry, and you have to keep it cold.
Absolutely.
Don't put ice on top, because as the ice melts, it's going to fall through your bait and keep your bait wet. And it's going to make it soft. Keep your bait dry. Just put it on top of the ice. I think I went over 20 seconds. But
take a breath.
What's up, Derek?
You were the one telling me to slow down, so I'm slowing down. So okay, so we're gonna slow down for y'all, so we can take a breath. Well, let's go back to the questions. Crappie. Let's talk about the crappie fishing, and then because you said we're gonna do like a fish of the week. So this week, Michael's picked crappie to talk about, and I think we even have some pictures to show you guys. So.
This is generally one of the slower times of the year to fish for crappie in general. But since the lakes are literally 10 degrees cooler than they normally are, the crappie fishing's picked up. Fish right now are anywhere from 8 to about 20 foot. They're in a pretty big range. We have some of those pictures? I was gonna pull up a picture here. And I want to show you. I was out fishing with Tommy Robinson yesterday.
All right, so
we were fishing.
Put this around here.
And I want you to see here. I'm going through some pictures here. Those are not crappie. Here we go. I want y'all to look at this real quick. This right here is a brush pile. First of all, this is taken off of a hummingbird, Helix 12. And this right here, if you can see this, this is actually a metal pole right here that's just out in the middle of the lake, okay? It's a metal pole, and I've actually added some brush to this pole. Do you see all the cloudy stuff around it? this right here, all these, every single one of these individual little, like that little line right there, that's a crappie. Okay, Stan Browning says crappie. So if you think of it this way, if each individual little line, like grain of rice, is a fish, and then you kind of zoom out and you look around that pole, there's probably over 100 of those. Those are all crappie. Now, this time of year, they don't feed extremely well, and so you have to kind of work, get them to bite. But this is what you can expect when you come out. The brush piles right now are loaded up, and that was one of the questions we had. I think Justin Seeley had asked the question, what type of structure are you looking for? Right now, guys, we're looking for brush. The fish are on brush. They are on a few bridge pylons, but do we really enjoy people? But they're on bridge pylons, but they're also on brush. So anywhere from 8 to 25 feet, and it can be game on.
Did you have any more pictures you're going to show? Because I know you loaded like 4 or 5.
Not on the crappie. I had some stuff for stripers and stuff.
Okay.
So.
All right. So we will turn around. I'll make sure I'm not underneath it. Okay.
All right. See if we can get this straight here. There we go.
All right, so then I think we had a couple more questions that we were going to answer really quick, and we will get off the feed unless you guys have any other questions for us. Oh, really good question. I thought this was a really cool question. How do you approach a school of hybrids and stripers when other boats are fishing it? I mean, and without ruining the fish for everyone. Also, Peter asked the same thing. Approach, or should you just keep on moving and stay on the outside? Everyone just wants to catch fish, and so I think that's still an issue for, just me in general out there.
That's the best question.
It was a great question.
That's the best question that's been asked.
So
really,
Peter,
what happens when you come to the lake, you expect to catch hybrids and stripers, and you get out there and there's a group of boats that are fishing and they're catching fish? What are you supposed to do? So let me tell you what you are supposed to do. First of all, you're supposed to go catch those fish. Okay, so it's okay to come in and catch those fish when you've got a community of boats fishing. Whites and hybrids are a community fish. They're a social fish. No one owns any spot on the lake.
Absolutely.
So with that said, there is a way to do it right. And let me tell you what that is. Whites and hybrids generally are boat-shy fish in general. There are times, yes, you can run your motor right by them and they stay biting, but 97 times out of 100, you're going to spook them. So what you want to do to join the crowd is you want to make sure you have a trolling motor on your boat. If you don't have a trolling motor on your boat and the fish are biting and they're schooling, then you probably don't want to join in on the fun, because all you're going to do is you're going to have to motor in, you're going to spook the fish,
right.
And then you're not only are you going to ruin it for yourself, but you're going to ruin it for 3 or 4 or 5 other parties that probably worked really hard to stay on their trolling motors to keep those fish biting.
That's
So
right.
here's how you do it. You go upwind, you flank out around the fish, and I'm talking, when I say flank out, I'm talking like literally like 400 or 500 yards. Go around where the fish are, where the fishermen are, where they're biting. Go all the way around upwind. So if you got a 5-mile-an-hour wind or a 20-mile-an-hour wind, it doesn't matter. Get upwind, and then once you get upwind, 200, 250 yards from the fish, kill your motor. Drop your trolling motor, and then use your trolling motor and use the wind to your back, and just ease yourself into the fish. Okay, that's going to bring you right into where the fish are. You won't spook the fish, and everyone else is going to accept you into the group, and you're going to start catching fish. Now, that works coming in. It also works that way leaving. Just because you caught your limit or you caught a few and you got a phone call and all of a sudden you got to leave and go somewhere else, doesn't mean you fire up your motor and you zoom out of there, because then you ruin it for everybody else. So just simply get back on your trolling motor and exit out. Okay. Let me tell you the situation when it doesn't work. It doesn't work when you've got a single boat and he's out by himself and he's found these fish and he's out in the middle of the lake by himself and he's catching them. That's a specific time that you got to use some judgment on, because if he's out there by himself and he's fishing maybe live bait or whatever, and you try to come in right on one boat that's fishing by themselves, that can, I personally would never do that.
And most likely you're not going to catch fish.
Yeah.
If he's out there by himself, those fish are probably under his boat. So I don't know how many times that we've got, we're a team here, so we talk to each other. Yeah, I'm on fish. Are you on fish? Yeah, I'm on fish. And rarely do we get up on plane and go check out what our other guides have, because when we get there, I mean, it's always the same story. If we've ever, the few times we've done it, it's always like, can't catch somebody else's fish. So, I mean, it's happened. So, especially, dead sticking in the wintertime, we're dead sticking. How far away do they need to be away from that boat? Because, you'll blow those fish.
Yeah, any time in December and January, February, when the fish are biting on the dead stick, which if you don't know what the dead stick is, that's one thing. But if you do know, it's a 300-yard rule.
Yeah.
In the wintertime. If you've got a boat out in the middle of the lake and they're drifting and you see guys standing up and they're fishing below the boat,
right.
You want to swing way out away from those.
Because you will blow their fish. And it's so frustrating because really sometimes it'll take us an hour to get fish under our boat.
Yeah.
And then it just takes one guy to come up and just, within 200 yards, and they will blow our fish. It's like, God, man, we spent all that time working. But, it happens, A lot of people just don't know, and I'll give you, for instance, this last weekend when I was on one of my trips, we were out and there was no one around us, and we were catching sand bass. We're slabbing for sand bass and casting and slabbing, and this guy in a boat came up and he starts trolling around our boat. I mean, trolling around our boat, picking up fish too. And I was just like, wow. And then literally within a few minutes, the fish were gone. So anyway, so that can be frustrating. But.
Yeah, it can. Well, hey, if you just joined us, we're talking about Tawakoni. We're talking about fishing. We're talking about questions that folks have had. We talked about shad. We talked about blue catfish and how we rig for them. We're talking about punch bait. We're talking about crappie. We're talking about all the things that we do here at Lake Tawakoni, and we want to hear from you this next week. We want to have questions ready. We'd love to answer your questions. I don't think there's anything else.
I think we got them all.
That we've got here. Blah blah blah.
Oh, here's one. Went from Brooks. When and how does the main river channel come into play when locating hybrids?
Brooks Tarkington. That's a great question.
It is.
Let me tell you this: on lakes like Texoma, they have major rivers in them, like Texoma, Belton. What comes to mind here? Possum Kingdom, places like that. The river channel comes into play. Places like Cedar Creek that have a creek that's been silted in. Tawakoni's got a creek that's been silted in. The Sabine that's kind of not really a river as it goes to the lake. Stuff like that. Doesn't really matter much. So how does the main river channel come into play on Tawakoni? It doesn't. I don't catch fish on the main river. Do some people catch fish on the main river? Maybe, sometimes. But generally on Tawakoni, it's a structure lake. You're going to catch your fish on structure. Right. Humps, ridges, islands, trees, things like that. Willows, things like that. But the river channel on Tawakoni, it really doesn't come into play. I know it comes into play on Texoma, and it comes into play on Belton, and it comes into play on lakes that have major rivers running through the lake, like the Red River or the Brazos, or rivers like that.
We've done some of that fishing up on Texoma for big catfish and things and sort.
We have.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
all right, guys,
stoppers,
we're gonna jump off here. If you will, text us or make some comments during the week.
Rick.
Yep, we'll see Rick Dixon in the morning. And
You're
Tommy.
not old.
And Tommy. Tommy's got a sonar trip, setting up sonars and setting up side imagings.
Yeah. We also have Thursday open, guys. So if anyone wants to go fishing, half day, full day, whatever,